What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I've got two comps for you guys today. It's my first two boulder comps of the comp season, so let's get right on into it. Alright, so starting off, here's my first climb of the first comp, and to be honest, I was definitely not fully warmed up for this climb, so it was a bit of a struggle, especially because it had these kind of weird moves, moving right on the kind of good pinches, but there was a really good foot on the volume, so using that really well made the climb not too bad, but the last move to the pinch was kind of hard because the pinch was actually pretty slippery. But moving on to the second climb, it didn't look that bad at all, and the start was pretty chill, but once you got to the top of the three volumes, the left start hold that was now the left foot was actually like really bad. And I also tried the move dynamically, which probably wasn't the best idea with how slopey the volume was, but the next time when I got back there, I placed the foot a little better and tried the move statically, which was actually a lot easier. And then the top was super easy because all the feet were really good, and the finish hold, even though it was small, it was a pretty positive and gut crimp. Moving on to this one, another vert slabby climb. The beginning was pretty easy because you got to use the wall on the right as a really good foot to push off of, and the right hand was a really good jug. And then the stand-up move was also another pretty good jug, but a little more of a slopey hold. And then it got into this really sketchy slab part of the top because the hold that my right foot is heel hooking is actually like fully no tex, and the left foot was like super slope, and the finish was also like a kind of bad sloper, but I managed to find a little bit better of a position. This next one was probably my favorite one from the comp because it had some pretty fun body position based moves, and all the holds were either pretty good or just a little slopey. And now begins the montage of failure. I think that since this was my first like official USA climbing comp in a while, I wasn't fully used to it yet, and it was kind of almost like I wasn't really warmed up for the comp, especially because I knew that I was gonna get first place no matter what, since I'm in the old category M20 and there was no one else in my group, so it's almost like I just wasn't trying as hard. But also some of these climbs were pretty hard. Like this one here, I just had no idea what the beta was, and I was just kind of throwing myself at the wall. But I definitely fixed my mindset for the next comp and took it more seriously. But back to the rest of the climbs I tried. There was this slab which when I got to the volume, it was just so bad that there was like nowhere else to go, and I don't think anyone got that slab. Onto this yellow one, which I actually really liked the beginning because it had this cool jump to a double clutch like compression move. But after that, it was like really hard because the crimps were both like 10 millimeters or smaller, and they were super slippery, so it was super hard to hold on. But onto the last climb, which is this black one, it started on these kind of good pockets. And then you had to do this weird but kind of fun traverse over to the right, but I messed up the sequence after that on my first attempt. And then the holds after that are also like super small and bad, and I'm definitely not the best on small holds like this, but after a few tries of trying the intended beta, I just started trying to go from the volumes up to the finish, which actually felt pretty close, but I just couldn't get it done. But, you know, still ended up in first place at the end. Now moving on to the next comp. This one was at one of my home gyms, and there was actually people in my category this time, so I had some people to compete against. But back to the climb, it started on this pretty slow moving vert climb where getting to the first yellow macro wasn't too bad. But then after that, you had to do this really weird press into a knee bar, which was super delicate, and if you went too fast, you would just slip right off. And I really don't like knee bars on fiberglass holds because they hurt really bad, but thankfully the next move is to a pretty good slopey pinch, and then the last move is also pretty easy to a nice crimp. Next, this climb was probably my favorite one, and it started on this like high undercling smear into the zone, which was a pretty slopey crimp, but not too bad. But since it was slopey, it forced the kind of paddle into the sloper in the crimp, which was a super fun move. And then the last move was a pretty easy move to a nice big jug. Now on to the next one, which is this green slab, which had a super delicate start on a really bad foot and a no-tex hand foothold thingy, and then you had to do this quick stand up into the volume, which wasn't too bad, and then you got into these two super slopey but actually good crimps, and then you just had to get a high foot and stand straight up into the finish hold. Onto the next one, which is this super powerful one. The first move was actually really hard and I dropped it a few times, but then after that, getting to the big flat hold macro was pretty chill on a good left hand crimp, but then the move to the zone was so freaking hard because the left foot was just awful, and the right hand macro was also really bad, and the zone was just angled like just down a little bit, so it was super hard to hold even if you hit it kind of good. Onto the next one, and this one showed me that I still need to work on my comp beta reading, because getting to the zone wasn't too bad if you really trusted the feet, and then the slopers would be pretty decent, but after that I just didn't really have a great idea of what to do, because it seemed like there was a few options and I should have just stuck with my best beta, which was my beta on the third attempt, because that was actually the right beta, but I just rushed it a little and wasn't using my feet enough. Now moving on to this last one, it started on this walkover pressing section, and then you get up to the flat hold mini borderline, and you had to pinch it super hard to be able to stay on, which also made the move to the zone pretty hard. Because of the hold being like hard to hold and then the foot being semi good, the move was pretty hard for me because the sloper was super bad, and it was supposed to be like a tensiony move to the zone where you keep your right foot on when you go for it, but I just couldn't keep it. But even in the end, I still ended up winning the comp, and I actually came back a few days later and sent 2 out of 3 of the ones that I didn't send in the comp. The only one I could never get was number 4, which was just insanely hard. But now I know what I really need to work on, and I'll continue training hard, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave a like and subscribe.